joining me now is Congressman Stephen Lynch. Congressman, thanks for being here on It's All Local.
Thank you, Seth.
So we just talked to Mac D'Alessandro, who's your Democratic challenger. And one of the reasons he said he's running is because he doesn't think that you're accurately representing the wants and needs of the people of the 9th Congressional District. He brought up a few points. He said you voted for the Iraq War, for the Patriot Act, and against health care reform. How do you respond to that?
Well, in terms of the earlier votes, I've had several elections since those, and I think in the last election I got 79% of the vote, and the one before that was 77%. So I think, you know, there's no better gauge of whether you're matching up with the needs of the constituents that you represent than their vote. And you know, I've been blessed. I have 19 towns and 2 cities. It's 640,000 people, and who are not shy. And it's very difficult with a population that large to get consensus. But I would say getting close to 80% of the vote is pretty close to consensus as you can get in these times. But I always struggle to, you know, when you have a big issue, to listen closely. And some issues are very, very complex. And so one side or the other can distort them. So, you know, while I respect and I listen closely to the people that I represent, I also read the legislation. And with the health care bill, I think as people understand, as this unfolds, you know, part of that bill is going to be phased in this year, and then 2011, and then another big chunk comes in 2012, 2014, and finally it phases in 2018. The worst of the bill comes in late in 2018. And I think that as it phases in, those who hoped for the best and those who wanted nothing will realize that this was not the best road to go. I did vote for a health care bill that I thought was terrific. It provided for a limited public option. It took away that antitrust exemption for the insurance companies that allows them to operate as monopolies.
And that was your biggest sticking point in the health care bill this last time, correct?
Right. Well, the biggest issue is the cost, but yes, the bill that my opponent supports is the one that restored the antitrust exemption to allow the insurance companies to operate as monopolies. The one that my opponent wanted and still advocates is the one that actually stripped away the public option. I had supported a bill that contained a public option that allowed the states to operate a limited public option to force insurance companies to lower their prices. And thirdly, the bill that I voted for, if you and your spouse made $1 million or more, you paid the surcharge, and that's how we paid for the expanded coverage. In this current bill that my opponent is advocating, that falls on anybody who has that surcharge, the 20% surcharge. It was actually 40%, and then I voted to reduce it to 20. It falls upon people who have expensive health care plans, which are called Cadillac plans, but in 2018, when this kicks in, people are going to be surprised that their plan is a Cadillac plan. So basically, the bill that passed stripped out all the reforms. And the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, has just come out with 2 findings. One is that the bill cost $110 billion more than they had originally projected. And secondly, the bill has done nothing to lower the trajectory of health care costs. And that was the underpinning of the whole bill, that we were going to, since we were paying 3 or 4 times what every other country was paying for health care and not getting the results that we desired, that if we changed the system, we would use the savings, by reducing the cost, we would use the savings to pay for the people that didn't have health care. Well, there's no savings now. There was nothing in there to reduce the cost. So I think at the end of the day, when this bill is eventually phased in, and you have to ask, if it was a good bill, they'd want to get it in right away. But they phased this one in until 2018, and that's when it actually phases in. So I think people will be disappointed greatly. And and I promised the president, I said, look, if this passes, Mr. President, I met with him in the Oval Office, I said, look, if this, I'm against it. I said, but if this passes, I will not join those people that want to repeal. I said, Mr. President, I will join you in fixing this thing. And that's what I've done. The President supported a reconciliation bill afterwards to straighten out some of the problems that we had, reduce the tax from 40% to 20%. I supported that. And the President has said, not this year, but maybe next year, we'll look at a public option. That's what he said, and I think that's what he'll try to do. We'll look at that again. But unfortunately, the bill did not meet our expectations.
You took a lot of heat for your vote on the bill from unions. Now you're out on the campaign trail. How are you dealing with that? Are you getting a lot of grief from people here in the 9th Congressional District who are saying, hey, what about us? You're supposed to be looking out for the little guy? Yeah.
Well, 18 of those unions have endorsed me. A number of them have done their own actuarial studies and realized that the impact of this health care bill is going to fall heavily upon them and their members. So they've begun to look at this a little bit differently than when it was first advocated. And I think they will understand, even more so when the bill phases in, how damaging it is, because the surcharge is really targeted towards companies that have been generous to their employees with respect to health care. And a lot of those companies are union companies. Some are not. You know, get Gillette is a non-union company, and they do great by their employees. Those employees will be hit as well.